Welcome to my channel, Making Crafts. I am starting a three-part series where I'm going to show you how I make a mini album journal. And this album it's a mini album where you can add pictures, but it's also a journal where you can document the event, or you can use it for different things. And throughout the video I will tell you different ideas I have and ways to use it. So to get started, we are going to make the binding, and it's going to be a hidden binding for our journal. So you want first to cut a piece of paper at 9 1/4. So you want to cut it by 9 1/4. Nine and a quarter by 7 1/2. And save all your little scraps because we may be using those in the journal. We'll see when we're decorating. Okay, you now want to get your scoring tool, and on the side that is 9 1/4, you want to have the 9 1/4 side up against the top of your scoring tool. You then want to score at 1 inch, and then 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/4, 2 3/4, 3 1/4, and then 3 1/2, and then again at 4, and then 4 1/2, 4 3/4. Okay. Okay, so now you want to go and score at 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6, 6 1/2, 7, and 7 1/4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to do one more time. So we're going to do 7 3/4, and then 8 1/4, and that should leave you a 1 inch right here, and it does. So now we've scored it for our binding. And I'm going to put the measurements, I'll put the link below to the digital paper that I'm using. I'm also put the measurements below where you need to score this, because it is a lot of scoring, and you can just pause and replay it as well. So now once we have this scored, we want to start folding it. So what we want to do is start out by scoring on the second score line. So that's going to give you your peak. And then you're going to fold back on the first score line. Is going to go back towards the whole sheet. So you're making a peak here. So it's kind of like an accordion fold. So then the next fold is going to go back so that you make this little peak here. This is going to hold your page. So then you have the 1/4 inch score line there. So that one you're going to fold up towards the top of your paper. Okay. So once you have that one, then you want to take, and you're going to, so you have that one towards your paper. So then the next score line, which is going to be a 1/2 inch score line, you want to fold up towards you, which is going to make another peak. And so what you're doing is you're making valleys and peaks. You're just making valleys and peaks, and this is going to be your page, how your page is going to attach on. So as I keep doing it, it'll make more sense. So then you're going to take and you're going to fold it back. So then you have a peak here. So now it's time for a valley. So what you want to do is for the valley, so you have your 1/4 inch line. There's a 1/4 inch here. So on that line, you want to fold up towards the paper again, towards the top. And then you're going to fold back down. And so then again, you have a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. Your two sections that's been scored, they're 1/2 inch wide. So that's got to be a peak coming up. So then you're going to fold down so that you can make a peak there. And there's another peak. So then you've got another valley. So you want to take, and for that valley, you want to fold again the 1/4 inch line. You want to fold towards the top and just score it. And then you come back and you've got 2 1/2 inches sections together. So that's another peak. So you want to fold that so that it points up towards you. And so there you have another peak. And so you're getting your peaks here. So once again, we're at the 1/4 inch again, so we're going to just fold up towards the top. So it's a 1/4 inch fold. So what you're doing is fold towards the top first, and then fold down towards the top. And so you're just making little peaks. So you can find your peak again. It may be easier for you just to find your peaks. Your 2 1/2 inch sides that are together, and just fold those on the score line so that you have a 1/2 inch on this side and a 1/2 inch on this line, and just fold it together. So then you can go over here and find your next peak. It's a 1/2 inch section and a 1/2 inch section. So you're going to fold it so that the center of the 1/2 inch section is pointing upwards, and press down, and you have another peak. So that is one way to do it. And so then you're just going to work it so that you have all your valleys and your peaks. So what we're having is our 1/2 inch sections are pointing upwards, and then our valleys are our 1/4 inch sections. So now we're going to glue our 1/2 inch sections together. I'm going to run some glue on each side of your 1/2 inch section. And then you're just going to press the 1/2 inch section together. So right here you have your first peak glued together. And just want to, since I'm using wet glue, I am just going to give it a second to dry. Okay. So then you have that. So then you just want to go glue again. So you want to leave your 1/4 inch section. You don't want to put glue on that yet. And now you want to glue the 2 1/2 inch sections together again. And be sure to use good glue and use enough glue so that it does stick together. And you can use double-sided tape for this part. So now we're just going to glue those peaks together so we can form our peak. So we're gluing the 2 1/2 inch sections together again, and just pressing those tightly together. Okay, so now once again we're going to glue our 1/2 inch section together, and you're leaving your 1/4 inch section. You're not putting glue on that. That's going to form the base of it. So then you just glue those together and press tightly. So then we're going to turn it over again because we're gluing on the back side now. Make sure you pay attention that you're gluing on the back side. So then you're just going to, once again, you're going to glue the next one together, the 2 1/2 inch sections together on the back side. So you're just going to press them together. And see, on the top, it's forming a peak. Okay. So now we're going to try that one more time. And when we get done, we should have 6 peaks to make 6 pages in our journal. Or in our album, whichever way we call it. Because this could be used as a journal to journal in, or it can also be used as an album to put pictures in. Or you can do both for this one. This one, the way I would use it is I would put pictures in it, and then on the journaling pages I would write about the event or what's going on in it. And I think this would make a good album. It'd also be good like a little baby book. And so on the journaling you could tell the baby's weight and size and when they were born, and just different little things about the baby. This would be a great baby's book to have. And with these colors, I think it'd be great for a little girl. So we're just pressing them all together that's been glued. I'm just trying to make sure they're all glued tightly because I am using wet glue, so I want to make sure that I give it time to dry. So now we're going to do the next one. I'm just going to add plenty of glue. And we're going to glue the 2 1/2-inch sections together, which forms another peak. So now we should have, when we get done, we should have 6 peaks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 pointing up. So that's going to hold our 6 pages in. And then the 1 inch on each side, that's so we can glue it into the book. So I'm just going to work these real quick, just pressing on them to make sure I've got every one of them glued shut good. That one's got a lot of glue on the outside. So then that's what your back's going to look like. When you get done, you're just going to see 1/4 inch sections on your back. And that gives you a 1/4 inch between each page so that, you know, when you start adding pictures and adding all kinds of things to your pages, it gives you room to put all that decoration in there. So now we have the binding done. So now we need to make the cover. So let's move on to that. For the cover, I am using some chipboard, and you can buy packs of this on Amazon, and I'm going to link all this below. But you can also use a cereal box. If you have an extra cereal box, you could use it for this as well. But I'm just going to use the chipboard that I have on hand. Because I bought a pack of this chipboard years ago, and I still have tons. So, and I've made lots of little mini albums and different things using it, and I still haven't ran out. So a lot of times though I do use cereal boxes, but today I wanted to use this for some reason. I just wanted to use my chipboard instead of pulling down the cereal box. So we're going to start out by cutting our spine. So we're going to cut it at 2 inches wide. So I'm just going to cut a 2-inch wide strip first. And it's going to take just a little bit to cut this. So you just have to press really hard and just go back and forth on it. And it's getting it. So I think I will turn it over because we got a little line there. So turn it over and cut the back side at the 2 inches. And make sure you line up your cut because you can see now where we folded it. You can see where to cut it, and it'll make it easier to cut right through it. So now we have our 2-inch strip, and we're going to cut that let me lay this down. We're going to cut our 2-inch strip at 8.5 inches tall because our journal is going to be 8.5 inches tall. So we're going to cut it at 8.5. I'm just going to cut back and forth like we did, and then I like to fold it and then turn it over and cut the back side, and just be sure to line that right up on the line. And there we have our 2-inch by 8.5-inch strip. Next, we're going to cut the covers, and we're going to need those to be 6 by 8.5. So let me see how big this piece is. Yes, it's 12 inches. So we're just going to cut this sheet in half. So we're going to cut it at 6 this way. So you really only, that's why it lasts so long, because you really are only going to need 1 sheet of this chipboard to make this album cover. And so then we're just going to fold it so I can see the line, and then I'm just going to turn it over and cut right on that line. So now we have it at 6 inches wide. So for the height, we're just going to cut it at 8.5 inches as well, just like we did the spine. And you'll just have a few little pieces left over. And hold on to these, because these would be good to make some decorations for the, like you could cover them and decorate it like for little tags and different things in the album, and we may do that. You can also use them on the back of, like when you're decorating a card or something and you want it, instead of using the foam tape, you can use this on the back to give it some dimension as well. So I'm going to hold on to those, and I may find something to use them for in this actual journal. So now we have our cover pieces of chipboard. So now let's get the paper that we're going to use to cover the chipboard. I am using the same paper that I was using for the pages, and so it's an 8.5 by 11 paper. So what I'm going to have to do is overlap these pages and glue them together so that I can have a big enough piece to cover my book. And the reason I'm doing this instead of using a 12 by 12 paper is because I want it all to match. So I'm just going to run some glue down through this on this side of the paper. And I'll show you in just a second. I like to overlap it for about 1/2 inch. Doesn't have to be exact. You just 1/2 inch is a good overlap, I think, though, for it. I'm trying to use enough glue that it does hold really well. Don't want this coming loose, which we're going to cover this up with some decorations and stuff, so it won't be coming loose. So now I'm just going to put it on this one and overlap. I think I have the glue pointing up. That way I don't get it all over my mat. And so then I'm just going to overlap about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to line it up on this mat so that I can see what I'm doing here. So they're just, and I want to make sure that they're lined up at the top and the bottom so that they match. And then we're just going to press that down and get that good and attached to each other. And I do have some glue coming out, so I'm just going to get a paper towel and wipe it off. Okay, so I'm taking a paper towel and I'm just going to wipe off the excess glue. And I'm going to wipe it off my mat real quick because my mat is getting sticky. So that's why I flipped it over. It was getting sticky on the other side. So now I'm just going to run on this side now and just press and wipe off the extra glue. And just press that down, and I'm going to take my bone folder and press it too, just to be sure that I'm getting this good and tight. You just want to take some extra time with this part and with your cover to make sure you're getting everything glued nice and tight. The rest of the project will go pretty quickly. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take the spine piece and I want to center it up. So from side to side, have that line where the paper matches up together, where the paper is glued together. I want that to be centered on my spine as much as possible. It doesn't have to be exact, but as close as possible. And then I'm going to take and put the cover of each side on here. But you want to leave a gap. I like to use Tyvek or duct tape on the inside of my cover so that my it's flexible and it doesn't tear. It doesn't come apart. So if you don't have any Tyvek, which I don't, I'm using duct tape. Let me get my scissors. And this is the only duct tape I had handy, and it is red, but it's not going to show through because my cardstock is thick enough. So just be careful with your cardstock that it is thick enough. And I'm not going to worry about it being on the paper yet. I'm going to get these pieces together first, and then I will worry about gluing it to the paper because I want to be sure I have my gaps big enough. And so let's see here. Sure I have all this good enough. And then I'm just going to raise that up. So then I'm going to take this duct tape and I'm going to pull out a big enough piece to tape these two sides, tape the spine and the first side together. So then I'm just going to lay it down because I've got it all lined up like I want it. And I'm going to turn it over now because I've seen it that it moved just a little bit. So I'm just going to turn it over and I'm just going to measure my gap, make sure I got it right before I really press down. And that seems good. So I like that. Now make sure your top, and this is forgiven for just a second, make sure your top and your bottom are lining up. And so I kind of like to just take a piece of, or you can take your ruler as well, and just make sure that it's all lining up. And then now I'm just going to fold duct tape over and fold it over here. And so that's right there. It's going to be flexible. So actually I think when you're doing this yourself on your own, it's sometimes easier than when you're trying to do it on camera and trying to hold it so everybody can see it. So I'm just going to actually lay the tape down right here, and hopefully that'll make it easier for me to show you what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to lay this on here, and I'm just trying to center it up on the tape, as well as center it up and down and side to side on here, so that both of them is getting covered pretty well. And then I'm just going to bring this one over here, and I can pretty much eyeball it since I've done this before, but I'm also going to still take my two pieces and make sure that I have it tight together, but also have the big enough gap, because I had that one too far apart right there. Let's just try right here. I do need to move in just a little. Okay. So now, just working with it just a little bit before I glue it all down. And you do want to make sure your top and your bottom is still lined up. So this is good. So we'll make sure my top, go over here, that looks pretty straight, and my bottom is pretty straight. So I'm just going to pull the tape over right here and here, and then let's just for added security, I am going to cover this side with the tape as well. And sometimes I tend to overdo it when I'm putting these together, but I like for it to be sturdy so that if you're going to flip through it a lot, it will hold up. And so you can use Tyvek, but used to you would get the Tyvek envelopes in the mail. Things that would come in packages and things would come in the Tyvek envelopes, but I haven't gotten the Tyvek envelopes in the mail in a long time, so I don't even know if they're still used like that, but I'm sure you could go online and find some somewhere. But I'm all about using what you have to make, especially if what you have is going to do just as good, you can use what you have. And also, it's hard for me to get to go shopping anymore, so to get to go out and about, and I do live in a very rural area, so we don't have craft stores and things like that. And so finding things that you can use for where you live is also important, because I know a lot of people live in other countries or in, like myself, are rural, and they just don't have all these craft stores and things that some do. So you have to figure out what works for you. Okay, so now that we have it taped together, and you just crease down through here with your bone folder so that the tape can work together on each side. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to take and just add a little bit of double-sided tape down the center, just on the center of on the spine, I mean not the center, but on the spine. I'm just going and add just a little tape to help me hold everything down before I get to gluing. So that way, this is just an added help. You wouldn't have to do this. I've done it without it before, but this will help hold it. So now what you want to do is, before you set it down, make sure that you have your spine centered on the paper, and then on the crease, on the paper where we attached it to each other, and then just press down. And I'm going to flip that over, and I'm just going to press to make sure we get a hold of the tape there. Okay, and be sure you didn't tape your these parts where we scored and where the gap that's between your chipboard pieces. Be sure you didn't tape there. And now I'm going to just add a little tape on each of the covers, and this will just help, like I said, just helps to hold it some. It's not absolutely, oops, that one's messed up. It's not absolutely necessary, but it does help you while you're trying to get it all together. It's just a little something to hold it while you're getting everything lined up. Okay. just going to press that down, and I'm just going to turn it over and just press really good. And I got a little glue right there, but that's okay because we're going to cover all this up and decorate it up. Okay, so now you can see that it is a lot bigger than what we need. So I'm just going to trim down this side, and I'm trying to match that side as much as possible. And then I think this is a lot as well. I think I'm going to trim that down. Actually, I'm going to pull out my paper cutter because I'm all over the place with cutting that. So let's just trim that section at a time. Okay, that will help me a little bit. And let me just see if I can get that straightened up just a little. It's not going to matter though, because we're going to cover it all up. Like I said, this is just to get you started on your cover. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now let me move some stuff out of the way so we can work on this. I'm just going to leave that because if folded up, it's not going to be that big a deal. So now let's take, and you're just going to cut across the corner there, and just not up to the corner, but just right up about 1/8 inch away from the corner. On each corner you want to do that. That one I may need to do just a little bit more. And this just is going to help you fold it over. So now we're going to start convincing the paper that it wants to bend. So just take your bone folder and just score along the edge of each side. Okay, so now we've started to train the paper that it wants to bend. We're just going to slowly bend up, and you can take your bone folder, and I have a stainless one I like to use for this part, and just press up against the edge, just slowly convincing the paper that it is going to fold over, and that way we'll keep all the wrinkles out, and it will help it to fold. And then you can always fold up like this, and just getting it to fold over, and just working it on each side. And when you're pressing down, you want to press down and towards the center. Have all the sides where they're going to fold over easily for us. So let's go ahead and start adding glue right in here, and then on the inside of each flap, and then pressing it over. So then you're just going to press it over. And use your bone folder to help you press it down. I'm just going to have to, and you could use double-sided tape here. It would stick immediately, whereas with the wet glue, you're just going to give it a moment and just be pressing it. And just press it down. And then right here, I have a little extra in the corner, so you just want to take your bone folder and press that in. So when you go to fold over, it'll be ready, and it won't, and I'm just going to, let's see here, is that going to fold over enough? Yeah, I'll just press it with my bone folder, just pressing that over so that when you fold it up, there's not going to be any puckers there. So then I'd like to do each end and then the top and bottom. So I've got that pressed down, and now I'm going to move over to this side and do the same thing. It's just taken right here. You're gonna have to press that into into the sides of the spine. You're gonna have to press it in so that it goes down into that groove. You should just press there so it goes into the groove. And then right here, where the tape is higher on each side, you're gonna just have to press right there in the middle so you can get it really connected to the chipboard so that it doesn't pucker up. So that's what you just want to be pressing down. Okay. Now we'll do the other side. We just want to do the same thing to it. Add the glue. And I did leave this one a little bigger, so I'm having to add a lot of glue. But it's not going to matter because we're going to cover all this up on the inside as well. This just gets our book going, gets it put together for us. Just want to get the edges good with glue. I think I've gotten glue stuck in the top there. Just keep trying to get enough on the corners there. I want to get the edges good. And then I see right here that I didn't press in, so I want to press this in before I fold it over. And that's just a little bitty tip that I'm pressing in so that it lines up. We don't have any puckers out. So now we'll just press this down. And I'm going to use my stainless one. I think it does better for me because it's heavier. But you don't have to have the stainless one. The plastic ones do fine as well. I've always used a plastic one. My husband got me the stainless one, and so I've just been using it, and I really like it. So you just want to press in here. Be sure this is the part that's got to work with. Getting it down in those grooves, and like I said, getting in between that tape and getting it to glue onto the tape. Okay. Just get it all pressed down. Looks like it's all doing good. Okay, so then you want to just slowly bend up, just training your book and training your paper to fold. And there we have our book cover. Okay, so now we have our cover made. Let's take our cover and let's add the spine. So what you want to do is you want to take your spine and you want to center it from side to side between these creases here, like where the book bends. You want to have it centered. So you're centering these pieces, where the page is going to be. Just put those in the center, and then your sides here are going to stick out further because that's going to help cover up. So when we add paper here, it's all going to blend. So what you want to do is you want to center it from side to side, and then you want to center it from top to bottom. So I'm going to turn mine so I can see it. So I make sure that I've got it from side to side centered and from top to bottom centered. So you can use a ruler or you can just eyeball it. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to lightly mark on each side where it goes and on the tops and bottoms where it goes, so that when I get my glue on it, I'm not sitting here trying to measure it while my glue is drying. So I'm just going to add a lot of glue on it. now I've added tons of glue on the back of this so that it's ready. And so now I have my line, so I gotta be real careful this doesn't fold up. And I'm just going to center it. I'm going to center it, but I'm gonna just match up where I put my markings. And this should be exactly where it needs to be. And that's when we marked it, so that when we went to put this down, we didn't have any issues. So I'm going to start out by pressing like down in the middle of one of my valleys where the 1/4 inch is. And then you're just going to do it again, right in the middle. Just keep pressing it down. Okay, so I've got that pressed down. And I am trying to keep my head out of the camera, but I may block it, I don't know, so hopefully I don't. I like to be able to get this done really nice, so I'm just going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to press down the middle again. Just pressing and getting all of this, because since it's wet glue, I've got some time, but also I've got to get it pressed down good before it dries. So, and then you want to just press it down. Remember our little groove of where the book bends. You want to just press it down into that groove. Be sure, and see mine's some glue's coming out, but that's okay. Just take your paper towel and wipe it off. And like I said, we can use our glue eraser later. And then I'm just going to do this side the same way, and hopefully you can see. I'm just pressing down in that groove. And be careful, if you put a lot of glue on it, it could be wet and want to tear, depending on the glue that you're using, so just be very careful when you do that part. And now just press down with your bone folder. And you want to press really good in these sections where your what we call them peaks, and the mountains and the valleys we was talking about. On each side of each of the peaks, you want to take your bone folder and go down in there and just press. And I'm going to use this one since it's got a better point on it, and I'm just going to press down against each peak at the very bottom so that I can get that attached really good on each side of it. You just want to be sure you're getting it. And like I said, the cover does take a while, but then the rest will go fast. And the rest is more fun for me, I think, decorating it and putting it all together. But you really want to focus on getting your cover right so that the whole book comes together good at the end. Okay. So, and just go back and make sure that it's gluing real good down in your crease here where you put it. I'm going to turn mine around so I don't put my head in the screen, and see if I can make sure everything's pressed down good on this end, and it looks really good. Okay, so now we're just going to slowly bend up again, because remember we added more paper, so we want to make sure that we slowly bend that paper. And then once you fold it up, look and see if anything buckled and came loose. If it did, just be sure to press it down, because like I said, the wet glue does not, it gives you some time, which is great, but since it gives you time to dry, then it's not totally going to be stuck like it would be if you're using double-sided tape. So that's the only difference between the two. So now I'm just going to fold it again and look and make sure nothing buckled, and it's all looks stuck good. So now I'm just going to leave that to dry, and we'll work on the pages of the book. So to get started on the pages, you want to use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. And what we're going to do, I was actually getting my paper cutter out, but we don't need the paper cutter. We need our scoring board. And so what you want to do is you're going to lay your paper into the scoring board with the 11-inch side towards the top. We're just going to score at 5.5. And you want to score all the way down at 5.5. Then you're going to turn your paper one time towards the left so that the 8.5-inch side is to the top, and you're going to score at 8 inches. So you're making yourself a 1/2 inch flap. Now that we have it scored, we need to remove a little strip from it. To remove the strip, we need to cut in at the score line that's in the middle here, and then cut this whole little strip off down the end. So you're just cutting up to your score line. You're cutting right into the middle of your score line, your 5.5 inch score line, and then the score line that you did across the bottom here, you're just going to cut one of the little strips off all the way up here. So then you're left with a piece that looks like this. So next, you just want to cut in from the bottom up towards your score line and just cut a little angle in it. And this will help when we're folding it up to make it less bulky. So you want to just do that with 6 pages. Now that you have all of your papers scored and cut, you should have sheets that look like this. So they have the flap and they have the score lines. So what you want to do is you want to fold your paper in half on the 5.5 inch score line. Be sure your top and bottoms are lining up when you do it. And just score that down. And then you're going to score the little flap on the bottom inside of your page. And so now we're just going to add glue to this flap. So we're just going to put some glue right inside that flap. And then we are just going to close the page up on it, making sure that your edges line up at the top and the bottom. Just turn it over, make sure everything's lining up at the top and the bottom, and then you just want to press it down. Press it down so that the glue can take hold. And I do like to use wet glue on this part for sure, because I think it's going to hold it tighter for you. And if your pages aren't lined up, just press your edges there. So there we go. So that's one page. Well, actually, you'll have front and back, so that gives you 2 pages for your book. So now, once again, you can fold up your flap. I'll do one more with you. And then you're going to add your glue. Well, actually, I like to fold this over and get it trained to go over before. Make sure everything's creased good. So just want to score that. And then add a little glue to your flap. And you're just going to do all 6 pages this way. And what I love about this album, I think you probably have noticed when we were cutting it all and scoring, is that there is really no waste with this album. We have very little waste of paper for each page. We're using up our paper and not wasting and having a bunch of scraps left over to figure out what to do with. And I love that when a project comes together like that. So just be sure to press all your score lines and making sure that your glue takes hold, because it needs to be glued shut. Just do all 6 pages that way. I forgot to mention when I was showing you this, that if for some reason your paper has a direction or whatever and your tab is on this side, it's okay to fold it up and fold it this way. But mine is the right side of the paper is actually right here. But it doesn't matter which side the tab is on, just so you have the tab on one side to make the page, because the page is going to be a pocket, and this makes the pocket for the page. This helps the page to be a pocket by having this little flap, so that it gives your page some depth to it, so that you can put things in the pocket. And the pocket has room for stuff. So I am finishing up my last page here. Now we're going to move on to decorating our pages, because I like to decorate the pages before I put them in the book, because I think it's easier to work with them and to decorate them. So next we're going to decorate each page and add some different little interactive parts to the pages. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to look in the description below for part 2. And also part 2 will be here on the screen where you can click it once it comes out. If you're watching this the day it comes out, then part 2 will be a few days later. So keep an eye out for it, and be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded. And I hope you have a great day, and bye.